What's up, everybody? Welcome in to the GNC Fantasy Football Show this week. I'm your host, Greg Bowen. My co-host, Chandler Stepp, is actually out this week.
Ha!
I'm just kidding.
Ha!
Chandler's here. Chandler is here. How
I
you
am the
doing
most
today, Chan?
I am the most dependable person you know, so don't even try.
You're a couple minutes late, but that's okay. That's all right. Um, so today, we're going to touch on some news as we usually do. A little bit after that, we actually got quite a bit of news to touch on in fantasy implications. On top of that, after that, we're going to do some of our um, bold predictions, if you will. We both have a couple that we're going to touch on, and maybe even some honorable mentions if you feel a need to. One question I do have for you before we start: why haven't we bought Madden yet?
Yeah, I've been asking myself the same question. I actually got a text from one of our league mates the other day asking if I wanted to play Madden that night, and my response was, I haven't bought it yet. I don't know
I think
why.
I know. I think I know who that league may or may not be, but yeah, I don't know. I thought about I was out shopping, grocery shopping. I almost got it at a Red Box just to check out, and I was like, wait, I don't rent Madden, I buy Madden. But yeah, anyway, we need to fix that.
Well, you need to get your
'Cause,
controller back.
that's true. Next week, we have our draft. That's some pretty exciting news for us.
Oh my gosh.
We're gonna have a really special episode. I think the day after, we plan on doing kind of a draft recap, draft breakdown, if you will. Look forward to that. And I'm hoping, like I said, one of us has Madden before that, so we can kind of have a marathon after our draft. I think we should definitely cap it off with that.
Greg, after the draft,
Uh,
I promise you, if you don't buy Madden, I will, and we are going to get wild and we're going to Madden hard. Madden till the sun
okay.
comes up, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, this is one of the only years that I can remember, especially as of the last 3 or 4 at least, that I haven't gotten it, bought it the first week. But before we jump in, anyway, we are going to do our quick huddle, and I've got the quick huddle for you this week. Are you ready?
I am so ready.
Huddle up! Huddle! Huddle!
Okay. Quick huddle this week. Of the potential first round players going, so potential, there's a lot there, anywhere from 1 to 15, 16 players you can choose from. Which of those potential first round picks have the greatest chance to bust this year?
And this is based off, where we expect them to go. Their ADP, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, like I said, there's anywhere from 1 to 16 in my head that who would be considered. Our league runs 12, 12 12 picks. We have 12 teams. So, I mean, ADP, it's going to fluctuate for a lot of people, or that those first 12 picks are going to fluctuate for a lot of leagues. I'll tell you mine. Mine right off is, I've seen a lot of people take Brown in the first round. I think in our league he could go in the first round, but for me, I think he has the greatest potential to bust depending on where he goes. And by bust, I don't mean that he's not going to finish potential, top 15 or um, even top 20. But if you're taking him in for those first 12 picks, yeah, he finishes outside that top 15. That in my mind, you paid way up for nothing there. And the reason I say the AB comes back to Derek Carr. We've talked about it. I think a couple weeks back, we talked about how we don't really trust that Derek Carr, that offense. So that's my pick.
I like
Antonio
your
Brown.
pick. I don't think he's actually going to go in the first round in our league simply because of the only person who would take him. It has the third pick, and I hope he's smart enough to avoid Antonio Brown at the third pick. However, my pick is going to be a guy who I also doesn't believe, who I do not believe should be going in the first round, but he will. In our league, he will for sure go in the first round, and that's James Conner. This could relate back to the PTSD I said I had regarding drafting Le'Veon Bell last year, but I
Sure.
am not high on James Conner. They are going to be using Jalen Samuels all over the football field. It's going to be more of a tandem. You're going to see him split work. James Conner may edge out the majority of that work, but Jalen Samuels is going to get his share. I haven't seen enough of James Conner to be confident drafting him in the first round. There are too many other players that are available. So James Conner, my pick, I think he has the greatest potential to quote unquote bust being drafted in the first round. Staying away from him. I wouldn't take him there. Very afraid.
Right. No, I slightly disagree with you, but if you're listening to anything that the team and the coaches are saying, they're saying exactly what you are, which they're going to utilize both running backs. By the time the season rolls around, I think that may change and it may be more Connor, and we may see. I'm thinking we're going to see much of the same potential that we did or production that we did last year. But I could be wrong because like I said, the team's coming out saying they're going to utilize both. But I think it's a good pick because you see him a lot of times going in the middle to the back half of the first round. So I mean that's a high price for anybody like that. But get into some news here. We have a few news stuff. Were you done with that? Anything else you wanted to touch on with that?
Oh, regarding James Conner, other than the fact that I think he's going to bust, no.
Okay. All right. Great picks, I think. Moving on to news. I'm going to start off with Kenyon Drake. Yesterday he left practice early. Today he was reported seen walking around with a boot on his foot. And that's really great news for any Kalen Ballage fans, which, I was big on whenever, for his draft price. I thought that maybe he could emerge even with Kenyon staying healthy there. But this is even, this is a better situation now.
Green light go on Ballage.
Yep, absolutely. Cooper, that's Amari Cooper, dealing with some foot issues. Not exactly sure if that's going to, turn into something. That's definitely something to monitor. But him and Zeke being out, that's not looking great for any Cowboys fans or any potential dynasty owners, or maybe you've already drafted and you have Cooper. So something to monitor there. Does that worry you at all?
At the moment, I don't know if there's enough information out there to be super concerned about Amari. So right now, I'm not even going to take it into consideration. If we were to draft today, I'm going to draft him exactly where I have been drafting, or at least have been targeting him. So at the moment, no.
So he doesn't take a bump, or not a bump, rather. He does. He doesn't go down in your.
Not in my opinion.
Okay. Just something to keep a check on. Now this will likely have a negative effect on your where you're taking him. I think Andrew Luck dealing with a high ankle sprain problem. That's yeah. That's about it. That's all every Colts fan out there. Any Luck owners, and again in Dynasty or anybody any leagues who have already drafted. This just sucks, for lack of a better word. I mean,
this is terrible news. I am so sad, not only for Luck or the Colts, but also, like you said, Colts fans. This was supposed to be a year where we all had them, projecting to do very well. And it concerns you regarding, people like T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah, I agree. Not everyone on that offense will be affected. I think a couple people like Marlon Mack, for example, will get a bump. But Ty, absolutely, this will affect that. Brissett, the backup, correct? That's a big knockdown from Luck. So are you taking how far back? I mean, I think Hilton's going right now, still at least ADP, back of the second, beginning of third. So you thinking middle of third, even knocking down even more than that for you?
Even if Luck is at 85%, 80%, but is somehow able to play all 16 games, I'm not going to knock TY. So if this is a type of injury that you can manage and that he can continue to play with this injury, I won't knock TY. What scares me is if he starts missing games. At the moment, I'm not going to knock T.Y. I'll still draft him where he is based on what we know, because an 80% Andrew Luck is still better than 80% of the quarterbacks in the league. And I'll take him there. I'll be comfortable, confident.
What about Luck though?
Luck's been going too early for me to draft him anyway, because I do wait late
Sure.
on quarterbacks. Therefore, if he were to fall to the point where I'm willing to take him, which he won't, even with this news, which is like the 11th round, 10th round. Yeah, I'd be more concerned if I was a guy drafting him, around his ADP. I would be more concerned if I'm that type of guy.
Right.
Yes.
And yeah, I absolutely agree. He goes pretty early, one of the first to come off the board typically in a lot of leagues. And yeah, I'm the same way. If he's not ever going to fall to the 10th or 11th round, at least not that I foresee. If he ever did, which I never do this. I usually don't rock two quarterbacks, but I would pick up Luck in that 10th round and then probably go ahead and have my second guy.
Like a Lamar,
which, like I said,
or
I don't
Josh Allen.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I don't typically do that, but in this situation, I feel like I would have to. Antonio Brown showed up for camp yesterday. Praise the Lord. The sky. He's gonna wear the new helmet. I guess he said he will play after saying, over the weekend, saying that he was gonna retire if he couldn't use his 10-year-old helmet. Let me repeat that: 10-year-old helmet. But yeah, I mean, kind of what I expected. At first, I thought maybe this was going to turn into something more than it was. At first, I was thinking it was a publicity stunt to kind of retire early. Maybe he wanted to. I saw some people kind of say that, and I was sort of thinking that as well. Maybe he was doing this to go ahead and retire, go out on top with the Steelers, and not have to deal with the Raiders. But are you worried about AB at all?
Yes, I'm worried about AB. You give a diva $30 million, well, now you got a rich diva. He reminds me almost of Homelander from The Boys. So I'm very concerned about AB.
What about fantasy wise? After all of this mess, is he about the same after all of it's said and done? After they wrap up this drama, or does this actually have a negative fantasy impact in your mind?
He's going around the second round, and
right.
If he fell to me, I would draft him because he is AB. He's at least going to get the opportunity. I don't think he's going to sit out games because he's such a big diva. So because that, if you have the ability to get Antonio Brown on your team, I almost think you have to, because of who it is. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, stuff like this makes me not want to draft a person, because I'm like, that just annoys me. I don't want you. I don't want you on my team. I don't want to deal with this stuff, especially anything that could arise throughout the season. So I mean, to me, I think it's possible that it's unforeseen, but maybe something arises like this in the future. But yeah, at least he's back at camp. We're gonna see him back on Hard Knocks, which I still haven't watched the episode that came out yesterday. I will be watching that after we wrap up recording tonight. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to that. I actually forgot that it came out yesterday. I was thinking Wednesday nights, and yeah, I was in bed. I was in bed early last night anyway. But also, in other news, McKinnon is expected, and this is McKinnon, running back for the 49ers, expected to start on the IR for the 49ers. That's not good for Mr. McKinnon, but it could be good for that backfield. I talked about Burita a couple episodes ago, maybe even last week. I'm a big Burita fan. This is definitely a bump up for Coleman as well. So just watch the situation, I suppose, and see. I don't think there's a third running back that can kind of move up for this. I mean, Mostert, I think, is probably the fellow to take that third back role. But I don't think McKinnon's in any danger of losing that. What are your implications on that?
I'm terribly sad for McKinnon. I was a big McKinnon fan. I don't think he's in danger of losing his projected role. He may be projected to start on the IR, week 1, but he'll be back. He'll be back early. I'm assuming, before week 4.
Mhm.
He's had all off season, all of last season to get past this injury. They could just be overly cautious. He's still not a guy you're going to be drafting anyway.
Right.
He's a waiver wire guy. So fantasy implications, still keep your eye on him. If Breida goes down, if Coleman goes down, his opportunities rise significantly.
Right. I'm with you. But that's pretty much all that, that's some news highlights from this past week. So now unless you have anything to add, anything you want to touch on before we move along?
No, there's nothing I need to touch on now. We can go ahead and get to our bold predictions if you'd like.
Yes, let's jump right in. So what we're going to do, just to kind of, again, touch on how this is going to go. We have both two bold predictions. We're going to start. Do you want me to lead off, or do you want to lead off?
I want you to lead off.
I don't
I
really
want you to
mind.
lead off, but
Okay.
but real quick, I want to say these bold predictions are going to be those that we're actually going to track. So we're not going to just sit here and give you bold predictions and just forget about them. So that way, we're not just talking shit. We're going to give you these bold predictions, and we're going to keep track of them throughout the year, give you updates on how they're performing and whether or not, they come to life, or
Right.
if we're just totally just ignorant at what we're doing.
Right. And also too, we're calling these bold predictions because a lot of people would, from the outside or even the mainstream, would read this and probably think, that's outlandish. That's why we're saying bold. I 100% believe both of these predictions, if you will, that what I'm bringing to the table can happen, and of course we're gonna go into that and why we're thinking this. But yeah, I'll lead off. Number one, I 100% do believe Kyler Murray can and will finish as a top 5 fantasy quarterback, and that's referring to 4-point leagues, leagues where quarterbacks get 4 points per touchdown. 6 points, a little bit different, but again, Kyler Murray, I think he can finish as a top 5 fantasy quarterback. Yes, even in his rookie year. I will start out by saying of course, everyone who knows anything about Kyler Murray knows that he's got legs, he's got wheels, and he can throw pretty decently. Rushing quarterbacks in fantasy football are kind of broken. I mean, not only do they get the passing yards or they get the passing yards or the rushing yards, but they also can rush touchdowns, and they get passing touchdowns. So sort of a cheat code in fantasy that and I love rushing quarterbacks. Likely I won't get Kyler Murray on my fantasy team this year, which sort of makes me sad. I'm looking for more like Josh Allen, who last year rushed the ball for around I think 600 yards or so. But that was the whole reason he was successful as a fantasy quarterback is the reason why I think Kyler Murray will be. On top of that, too, just to kind of touch on some rookie quarterbacks who not really in similar offenses, but similar styles of play. And starting off with, I'll go all the way back to 2002. And I know you're thinking that, completely different NFL. I 100% agree. But I want to mention it just because this player is one of my favorite players of all time. And I have a pretty fun stat about him. But Michael Vick finished the number 2. This wasn't his rookie season, but Michael Vick, his first full season, he finished as the number 2 fantasy quarterback. On the back of his rushing yards. First of all, did you know that, Chandler? Like, I mean, I'm sure you did. That's something you imagined. Mike Vick, you're a big Mike Vick fan.
It's not something I knew, but I'm not shocked by that stat because I remember as a kid waking up, getting my ABC Chef Boyardee ready, sitting down at 1 o'clock, getting ready for the Falcons game. So pumped about Michael Vick. Doesn't shock me at all.
Yep, absolutely. I found that out, did a little digging, and I wanted to just go back. The reason I even brought that to the table was because I was like, I want to go back and just look at some stuff on Mike Vick. Well, I have another Mike Vick stat. Flash forward to 2010, which is more recent, kind of more closer to the NFL that we are today. When he played for the Eagles, he only played 12 games that year, and he finished as the number 1 running back, or excuse me, the number 1 quarterback in fantasy that year. Now that's pretty unreal. But some players that are more recent and more relevant to back what I am saying. Robert Griffin III, he finished as the number 5 quarterback back in 2012, his rookie year. Now listen to this. This just shows you how 2012 was for the fantasy rookies. That was Luck's rookie year. He finished number 9, which Luck can move around. He is a mobile quarterback, not quite like Murray or even Griffin the third was. Um, but also that year was Russell Wilson, which he finished number 10 in fantasy as the number 10 fantasy quarterback that year. So, and then on top of that, you have Cam Newton, who finished number 3 his rookie year, and then Dak, he finished number 6 his rookie year. On top of that, I think Kyler, some of those names that I tossed out, they were going into systems that weren't really um, built and ready for them, right? They didn't have a foundation, or they didn't have or they had foundations, but they didn't have an offense that was kind of made for them. I think this coming into this Kingsbury offense, it's sort of going to be built around Kyler Murray. It's going to be friendly to him. Last year Kyler threw for over 4,000 yards and rushed for over 1,000 yards. There's not a lot of stats that are sticky from college to the NFL, if you will, but one that always is, I think anyway, is the rushing. I believe that always translates to the NFL, and I don't think that's going to be any different. Oh yeah, and if you didn't already know, the 4,000 yards passing, the 1,000 yards rushing, he's only the second player to ever do that in FBS history. That's pretty big, but I know there's a lot. I kind of tossed a lot there, but I did a lot of digging. I really like the Mike Vick stats. Like I said, one of my favorite players to go back. Um, and maybe that's the reason I'm so excited about Kyler. I love the really explosive. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. Kind of like Mahomes. I mean, he can kind of do. I don't know. He can kind of do the impossible at any time. So I'm excited. So I think he's going to finish top 5. What do you think?
At the beginning, when Arizona decided to give up on Josh Rosen and start targeting Kyler Murray as the number 1 pick in the draft, I was very skeptical. He's a small guy. I mean, I think he hit 5'10" at the combine, like height-wise, and I think he clocked in at 200 pounds. That's something I don't buy.
Lies. Lies.
Yeah, I think he's
Yeah,
closer.
I saw that.
I think he's
Yeah.
closer to 5'9", 185, which is fine because, like you
Right.
said, one thing you can't teach is you can't teach legs, you can't teach athleticism, and this kid is an athlete. He could have gone pro in baseball. I mean, this kid is an athlete. I have been growing higher on Kyler Murray. He is climbing up my board. I still don't know if I'm willing, just based on where he's going, willing to take him compared to the other quarterbacks that are around. I mean, once your top quarterbacks go, your Aaron Rodgers, your pre-injury news Andrew Luck, Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, once these guys are gone, it starts hitting the Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield. Like, these are starting to be the guys you're looking at. And I'm not sure if I'm willing to pull the trigger on Kyler Murray, top 5 for a rookie quarterback on a team that I'm not super confident about. I think they do have some pieces to succeed, and Kingsbury's being treated like an offensive guru. I could see it. It's definitely not something I not only put my money on, but be willing to even predict.
And that's one thing, like what you touched on. I don't know if I said it there whenever I was giving my spill on it, but unfortunately, I won't have a lot of shares of Kyler Murray on my teams or in my leagues. I may reach for him in one just so I can have him and know what that's like throughout the year, because there's a difference between watching someone throughout the year and seeing their fantasy implications and what they do in fantasy, and then feeling that. I think so. I may reach for him in a league just so I can have him, because I'm excited for him and for fantasy now this season and in the future. But yeah, I mean, this is a bold prediction. I mean, likely off the board, I would say, what is he going around the 8th quarterback or so, something like that?
Something like that. I would say your apprehensiveness into drafting Kyler Murray has less to do with Kyler Murray and has more to do with just overall draft strategy and understanding that 14 quarterbacks last year scored 25 points or more 3 different times. 14 different quarterbacks last year scored 25 points or more in a game.
Yep.
So why take the shot early when you can
Yeah, he's so
honestly get by streaming?
right now, I just looked it up here. According to Fantasy Football Calculator, which was a website, pretty neat website you can check out. He's going as the 9th quarterback off the board, which is like 804, which is still kind of a little. I mean, it's too early for me on Kyler, but yeah, I look forward to it. We'll see. We'll track this, like you said, and see where we're at the end of the season on these. But you can go ahead with your first whenever you're ready. The floor is yours, Mr. Step.
My first bold prediction is I'm calling it a bold prediction. I think it is bold. I don't know how much of the fantasy world agrees with me or disagrees with me, but I am really high on Nick Chubb. Very high on Nick Chubb. And I think he is going to finish as a top 5 running back. Now, think about what that means. Think about the guys going early in drafts right now. They're all running backs. You're talking about Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley. Okay, it was Melvin Gordon and Zeke, but we kind of see that changing. But then you have David Johnson. And I'm saying he's going to finish in line with these guys.
Okay.
Now, the reason is he had 996 yards last year. Nothing too special, right? But he did have 5.2 yards per carry. That is huge. He's averaging half a first down every time he carries the football. And another amazing thing, he only had 16 touches. 16 total rushing attempts in the first 6 games. That is laughable.
Yeah, that's
laughable. 6 games, 16 touches, and ends up with 996 yards. If you extrapolate that out to an entire season, you're looking at a guy that's trending towards 1,250 rushing yards and over 10 rushing touchdowns. That's insane. Now, he's not a huge pass catcher. Okay, he had about 2 touchdowns last year, 2 receiving touchdowns last year. So I'm not really focusing on the pass catching ability, but he's going to be a true bell cow. A lot of people worried about, well, what happens when Kareem Hunt comes back? Okay, what happens? So Kareem Hunt is suspended for, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, 8 games?
Right. No, that's right.
So 8 games, you have Nick Chubb as the bell cow. They just got rid of Duke Johnson. He's going to get all the work. And I think we all can agree that we assume the Browns are going to have a prolific offense, correct?
Everyone's excited for him. I mean, even if you're not a Browns fan, I think, yeah, everyone's pumped to see what's going to happen there.
And one thing about Nick Chubb is he's not a compiler, and compilers scare me. And what that means is guys who get a load of work, and their load is so large that they just happen to produce fantasy-wise. For instance, Royce Freeman coming out of college was a compiler, meaning he got so much work that he happened to put up big numbers. But we saw the type of season that he had last year. He ended up being outproduced by Philip Lindsay, who I believe wasn't even drafted. So I am very weary of compilers, and that's not what Nick Chubb is. Nick Chubb has big play ability. Week 4, he rushed the ball 3 times for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. So not only is this a guy that's going to get massive workload, but he's also a guy who can break off big plays. I am so high on Nick Chubb that I think he is a first-round guy. And if it weren't for the tool that me and you like to use, ADP, I would draft him in the first round. And the only reason I'm not is because I'm betting on the chance that he happens to fall to me. And I am worshiping any god there ever was. I am praying to everything. I want Nick Chubb to fall to me in the second round. I want him so bad I would give my dog away. That's how I feel about Nick Chubb.
I'm gonna take that for my which great prediction. I'm big on Chubb. I don't know if I'm as high on Chubb as you are, but um, one thing I wanted to talk about there that you did mention, you have the 6th pick in our draft. Um, so say that 5 running backs go off the board, hypothetically, that would mean that you would have to take Nick Chubb there, and you know that's a spot where you said it's tough because you're like, well, what he could fall to me in the 2nd round, but also after the season's over, you could look back and be like, man, why didn't I just go with my gut feeling there? So yeah, I understand the dilemma though,
That's true.
because
That's true. No, I get what you're saying, especially when you're talking about a top 5 running back, and when you're talking
right,
about 5 running backs going potentially in the first 5 picks. Like, why wouldn't you take this guy? It's because it is a bold prediction. I do.
sure.
This is a prediction I actually think is going to happen. I think you
And
can almost
and
lock it
you
in.
said top 10, right?
Top
Or did
5.
you say top 5? Excuse me, that's what I meant. Right. Okay. Yeah.
But I'm not going to pass on DeAndre Hopkins or Devontae Adams, guys who are more likely
Exactly.
to finish number 1 at their position,
Right.
to take Nick Chubb, especially when there's a very good chance, 40-50% chance he does fall to me in the 2nd round.
For sure. And I just want to take a second, see where Chubb's going right now. Looking at it, yeah, he right now is going right at the end of round 2. So yeah, according to that, you won't get a shot at him, but maybe you never know. So keep your hopes up. But I like the prediction there. I will go ahead. Did you have anything else you wanted to touch on with the Browns or Chubb or anything like that?
Other than the fact that if you think the Browns are going to be such a good offense, which I do, then why would you not take their elite bell cow running back? Why would you not
Yeah,
bet on that guy?
I'm with you. And just a minute. I mean, again, you're higher on Chubb than I am. Which, not saying I'm not high on Chubb. I think he's going to be a great for fantasy this year. Great for the Browns. But just to let everybody know, we do have kind of a bet going on with the Browns, right? The 8-8 bet,
Yes. Wait. Do we? Did we lock it in?
right?
Did you type that
I
into
can't
your
remember.
phone? Did you type that into
I
your
can't
phone?
remember. I'll have to double check, but I remember we had the conversation. I just don't know if we did lock it in, but a number of months back, we, when all this started developing, especially after Odell came, I can't remember who it was. I think it was you that came to me and was like, "Hey, Browns going to definitely finish over 8-8," and I was like, "I'll take the under," and I can't remember if we locked it. We'll check in on that. Update you later, but
Hey,
I think we've locked in like
if we're
$10.
if we're talking about locked in bets, so these are bets that I actually entered into my phone, so we can't forget them. Just real quick, Greg and I have a bet: Mahomes over 40 and a half passing touchdowns for $10. I got the over. Greg has the under. That's definitely something we're going to be keeping track of.
Yeah, and we're gonna make bets throughout the year, throughout in all of our podcasts. Maybe if we don't disagree, maybe if we disagree on something on the pod, or a lot of the times we disagree out, and that's when the bets usually come up. But we'll try to inform everybody on those because those are fun for us, and I think they'll be fun for the pod too. But yeah, well, now that if that's not locked in, I'm not so sure that you come back at me with that if I'm as confident in taking that. Just so you know.
Well, just so you
But if
know,
it's
it's
locked in,
on the
I'll stand
table.
by it.
It's not locked in, but it's on the table. You want to take that bet, 8-8? I'll take the over.
I don't think I'm going to. Not at this point. Maybe I'll come back later and we'll revisit that, but I'm not going to do that right now. What I am going to do though, I'm going to jump into my second bold prediction, and a lot of people are going to call me a homer over this. I don't care. I'm excited. Carson Wentz finishes as the overall number 1 fantasy quarterback this year, also throwing over 4,000 yards and 35 touchdowns. The dude's never thrown for over 4,000 yards in any of his seasons, a lot of which has been cut short, unfortunately. But yes, that is my second bold prediction. What do you think?
I'm all over that. I love it. We mentioned earlier that, or not earlier, but at least the very first show maybe that I am a huge Carson Wentz guy. Yeah, we did when we did the mock draft episode.
Did we draft him? Yeah, I think we drafted him in
I
our
think we
mock
ended up
draft.
drafting him, and I'm all over Carson Wentz now. A lot of people are going to say that he has this injury bug. I don't think he's injury prone. I think he has bad luck. And remember, one of those injuries was an ACL that he got because he got hit. Okay, so that's not something I'm going to count against the guy. Okay, in 2016 he threw for 3,700 yards, and then in 2017 he threw for 33 touchdowns. So I am all over him. He plays full 16 games. I love it.
Yeah,
number one overall.
I've heard a couple of people, not really say bad things, but I've heard a couple of people mention, that he hasn't thrown for over 4,000 yards, which of course is the case. Whenever you're playing, 13 games, his rookie year came in. That wasn't a great year. He had 3,700 yards, which isn't bad for a rookie coming in, learning, rebuilding a team. They were in such a rebuild mode whenever Wentz came in, and for him to turn around and that whole team to turn around and get behind Doug Peterson, me being an Eagles fan, that the 2017, it doesn't get any better. That's what it's all about, is winning the Super Bowl. But I want Wentz to actually lead us through, and I think this year he will do that and finish number one overall. A lot of the reasons I think that is because of the weapons around him. I look at some of the other teams. And I would compare the weapons around Wentz, or not even compare. I would say that he has almost better weapons than what Mahomes has around him. Coming in, Miles Sanders he's, from what I've seen on tape, I've looked at some of his college stuff and stats in college. He can be an explosive player. Wentz is going to need that out of the backfield. Jordan Howard definitely will not be that explosive. That explosive player out of the backfield. So Miles Sanders, as long as he can stay healthy, that's going to take a lot off Wentz if he can be successful, whether that's dump off passes, or even opening up the passing game with some decent ground yards. But not only to mention, but we have Djax back. I don't care how old the guy is, what you say about him, he can still take the top off of any defense in the league. And he is that's another cat that's going to be fantasy relevant for some games. I think we were talking about. I said that I think Djax will have around 7 touchdowns or more this year. But I have such high hopes for Wentz. Not even to mention Ertz, an ascending Goddard. Goddard's I think he's going to emerge this year. Not really take on that Ertz role yet. Definitely, but I think we're going to see him more on the field, especially in red zone situations. That's kind of how they used him last year a few times, and he was successful. He's a big guy. He's athletic, and the rookie coming in Whiteside, he's another player that I'm looking forward to. I don't imagine him being fantasy relevant or anything, but he definitely doesn't take away anything in the offense. And on top of that, Hollins, he was someone who was hurt last year early. Hollins is another. This is a fast offense, man. This is going to be exactly what Doug Peterson. This is why Doug Peterson has these guys. I think it's just going to be a no BS hustle offense. It's going to be so many passes or so many passing plays. Back in 2017. They had over 560. I think we'll see more than that this year. But all of that are reasons why this is my second bold prediction, and I'm excited for the season. Man, we're getting so close that I can almost smell it.
Oh, I know. I can't wait. And going back to what you were saying, you didn't even bring up Alshon.
Right, yes. See, so many. I mean, Alshon, he's really, like, especially fantasy, for a lot of fantasy players out there, he is so easy to forget. Even at being an Eagles fan, I just completely overlooked him in my rant there. And that was someone I definitely wanted to talk about, because last year he sat out a lot. with a healthy Alshon Jeffrey, man, he is scary good, and he is still an elite receiver in today's game.
He is. He's a big guy. He's a veteran. You do have Deshaun, who can take the top off of defense. I mean, that speed is still there. I don't know if Deshaun's going to be a guy that I'm going to draft, or even Alshon for that matter. However, this Eagles offense as a whole is going to produce. And I think if you're going to draft anybody, from this offense, it's Wentz, and I think it's Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders could potentially be a guy that you kind of have to wait a couple weeks on until he really starts to take over that role. Jordan Howard is not a guy that's going to bust wide open a play. He is more of a compiler, while Miles Sanders can be electric. And I think Miles Sanders is a guy that can handle, RB1, RB1, an RB1 role. I do.
Right.
I like Miles Sanders. You're going to have to hold out a few weeks. So if you draft him, be patient, sit,
Sure.
wait. Just wait on him. He's going to bang.
Yeah, I think like you said, in my head, if I draft someone like a Miles Sanders, who I think is going to be fantasy relevant, whether that's the middle of the year or on, but he could also, I mean, he could surprise everyone, and they come out week one, and him just fill that number one role. I don't think it will happen, but it's definitely a possibility. So you never know. If depending on where he falls, Miles Sanders could be the steal of this draft.
Oh, yes, I completely agree. And he's a guy I've actually been passing on in positions where it would
Hmm.
be in spots where it'd be a good position for me to take him. I have been passing on him because of the fear that I may have to wait a couple of weeks. I think I need to get past that. I think, like I said earlier, green lights go, Miles
Yeah,
Sanders.
yeah, I'm with you. Well, that's my second one. Again, Carson Wentz finishes number one overall fantasy quarterback. Both of my predictions were on quarterbacks. I didn't plan that out. Those were just two things that I felt real passionate about, and I really wanted to talk about on this podcast. This was a podcast that we were pretty excited about. We wanted to do three, um, and honestly, looking at how long we're running right now, I think it's a good thing that we didn't, because I was really wanting to talk about these two mainly. But I'm excited to hear your second. What's your second, Chandler?
My second is a true bold prediction in every sense of the word. This is something that has a lot of high hopes attached, okay? Because this not only is this a bold prediction, but this is also about a player who could potentially fall to me in the first round. So this could potentially be my number one pick, okay, at the 6th spot in the first round. This is my guy.
Okay.
David Johnson will set the single season reception record for a running back.
Woo.
That's
Okay.
a bold prediction. Now, who holds the record now? Christian McCaffrey with 107 receptions in a season. That is a massive number. But DJ had 80 back in 2016. And he did have 50 last year, but 2016 was like the year that like David Johnson became a household name. Everybody wanted to target him. He had that wrist injury 2017. And then last year, he had a good year. I think we talked about it last pod. He had a good year. He did have 50 receptions, but he was on a trash team.
On the
Okay?
worst offense in the league, hands down.
Dude, they were terrible. And they've had a makeover since, not only with, drafting Kyler Murray, bringing in a new coach in Kingsbury. A lot could change. And Kingsbury is going to use DJ all over the field, okay? I see him getting, close to 400 and 450 total touches. So that's, receptions and rushing attempts. I'm all over him. And they have guys. So this offense has Christian Kirk and Larry Fitzgerald, who is a vet, but they're going to lean on David Johnson. David Johnson's going to be the guy that's going to come in, and he's really going to make life much easier for Kyler Murray. If you can establish the running game, if you're able to set up the screenplays, get your back out of the backfield in flats or coming over the middle in that empty space when your middle linebacker and outside linebacker diverge to guard receivers, and here comes David Johnson right over the middle. I mean, he is going to be the cornerstone of this offense. And you can definitely even picture Kyler Murray and David Johnson running, the option occasionally or that read run. Like,
Sure.
I'm all over David Johnson. I think they're going to lean on him. They're going to give him the ball in space any chance they get. He's hungry. And they said the Cardinals came out and said, they're going to try and run 90 plays a game. So the opportunity is there. He's an elite pass catcher. He's an elite runner of the football. All over him. 107 receptions is high, but I definitely think it is achievable.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think there are two running backs, since it is the running back record, who could do that. One is the guy who holds it himself, in Christian McCaffrey, and the other one in my mind would be David Johnson. There, that's a mountain of a number. So I'm looking forward to watching that. But yeah, I think he has to get involved in the offense, much more this year. I think he will be as well with Kingsbury coming in. Looking like it's easy on the outside looking in what went wrong last year, and I think that's going to be obvious. And they have to get their star player, their star running back, more involved into that offense. Mountain of a number, very bold prediction.
Huge number. I mean, I would take if you tell me a receiver is going to catch 107 passes, I'm all over him. You're telling me a running back's going to do that, and then he's going to run the football? Oh, yeah. Please give that to me.
That's the first round. That's number 1 draft pick.
Right? Exactly.
Okay, and so that's our two predictions. Was there anything else on that prediction that you wanted to touch on?
On that particular
no
prediction, yeah. No. But if he falls to you in the first rounds, and Christian McCaffrey's gone, and you have the 2nd, 3rd, 4th pick, do not be afraid to pull the trigger on David Johnson.
Oh, I have my guys. Don't you worry about that. All right, so those are our picks, and I wanted to touch on one thing before we closed out here. I think you know what that's going to be, but just to quickly go over our predictions. I'll go over mine, then you'll mention yours again. My number 1 was Kyler Murray, finished as a top 5 fantasy quarterback. Again, I think that is that's in 4-point leagues only. Again, that's where touchdowns for passing touchdowns for quarterbacks only account for 4 points. 6 points, a little bit different. And then my second one, Carson Wentz, finishes number 1 overall fantasy quarterback. So those are my 2. What were your 2 again?
Got Nick Chubb going in the top 5 running backs, and David Johnson setting single season reception record for running backs. And in a PPR league, that's massive.
Bold. I like it. Okay.
And did.
Yes. Now the thing I wanted to touch on, and if you want to lead us off with it, because this was kind of something that you mentioned to me, we had a conversation out of it. So go ahead and kick us off about it.
Bro, we got so heated during this argument at work today. So for those of you who don't know, Greg and I work for the same company. And because of that, there's this little IM chat where we have the ability to communicate with one another. So, of course, what do we do with 90% of our day? We talk football. Yes. And this is something that came up. So as we know, Duke Johnson was traded to the Houston Texans,
which we meant to go back. Don't mean to interrupt. We should have mentioned that in the news, but I'm glad we're doing it here. But go ahead.
So I'm all over Duke Johnson now. I mean, I think that now this is a fringe bold prediction, and what I mean by that is that it's so bold that I'm not quite confident enough to make it, my status. My 2 bold predictions, but this is a fringe prediction.
Listen, brother, you told me earlier it wasn't that bold. You said this isn't that bold of a prediction. But
okay, you know what? No, it's not that bold. Whatever. Duke Johnson finishing in the top 12 for running backs PPR.
Running backs PPR. There's, like I told you earlier, there's a universe, a dimension where that happens. I don't foresee it. I think he's going to be I think he's going to help the team, more than he'll help your fantasy team. So I think he's going to help the Texans more so than he'll help any fantasy team. I'm not really taking any shots. Depends on maybe where he falls. I have no idea where he's going ADP wise right now. Let me see. You can go ahead and talk a little bit more about it, and I'll see if I can't pull that up.
Yeah, so Duke Johnson, a top 12 running back. Guys like Philip Lindsay and Tariq Cohen finished 13 and 11 respectively. And I think Duke Johnson is better than both of them. He, in my opinion, aside from James White, he's the best football catching running back in the league. And the Texans are going to be a very good offense. They're a fast team, and he's going to be used. Now, he's not going to score many touchdowns. I really don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to come in and get you 10, 11, 12 touchdowns. I think he's going to catch the ball a ton. I got him around, the 75, 80 reception mark. And then he's also going to run the football occasionally. You get him around, 250, 300 yards rushing, get him around that, 800 yards receiving mark. Hopefully he can sneak into the end zone 4 or 5 times. And he's not playing behind a true bell cow. Okay. Lamar Miller has been the guy who's been getting most of the work because they haven't had much back there. And Lamar Miller's solid. I'm not trying to sit here and trash Lamar Miller, but this is going to be a situation to where Duke's going to be in there every third down, just about every single third down. And then he's also going to steal touches in the first and second down. Any type of shotgun situation, some single back situations, Duke Johnson's going to be in there. Now, don't get me wrong. Lamar Miller's going to get his work.
Right.
But his fantasy relevance is dramatically decreasing because of the pickup. And they traded a 4th round pick for Duke Johnson. And a 4th round pick in the NFL, that's not like the NBA. They expect the 4th rounder to eventually produce. So they're giving up, a future guy for Duke Johnson now. And that says something. They're very confident in him, and they're going to use him. They paid for him. They're going to use him.
So I found where he's going right now on, again, Fantasy Football Calculator is at the 10:08. So he's going 10th round, 8th pick. That is a whole 4 rounds, whole 4 rounds after Lamar Miller, who, if you're Chandler, you really like that value. I bet you really like hearing that right now. I think that's going to go up. I don't think that's going to stay at that 10:08. But
I hope it stays. I hope it stays.
I don't think
I want him, and I'm targeting.
Yeah, well, it won't in our league now, so there's
right.
that.
Everybody's gonna listen to this.
Yeah, but I mean, I like Duke. I like Duke whenever he was, a couple years back. I remember, I think we were sitting at B-Dubs and we were watching a Browns game, and we were talking about Duke Johnson then. So I'm kind of flashing. I've been having flashbacks to that conversation all day. But so here we are. 2 years later, he's a Texan, and I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm just not that high. I don't see top 12 potential, and the reason being, I just see too many other weapons there. I don't see enough opportunities. I think they trust and lean on Lamar Miller too much. Duke Johnson's just kind of the odd duck out and on that team for me. Again, not saying that he's not gonna be on those third down situations, even most of the shotgun situations, as you mentioned, but I think more often than not, they're going to go at look towards someone, or look at someone that they know and trust.
But
we'll see.
Let's put your feet to the fire. So, where did you say Lamar Miller is currently going, ADP wise?
Lamar Miller is going right now 605, so 6th round, 5th pick.
And you said Duke's going 10.9?
10:08.
10:08. Okay, so. Yeah. Who would you rather take, Lamar Miller at his ADP or Duke Johnson at his in the 10th round?
Yeah, so for me, I have to look at who else is going around Lamar Miller first. Looking at what I'm, again on Fantasy Football Calculator, Eckler's going right there at the same spot. Give me Lamar Miller over Eckler every time. Tariq Cohen going a couple spots before at 601. Kenyon Drake, he's really fallen down. I'm avoiding Drake at this point.
Yeah,
for Drake. But yeah, if you tell me Tariq Cohen, Lamar Miller, or Austin Eckler in the 6th, or potential upside, the upside with Duke Johnson the 10th, give me that upside all day.
No, absolutely,
Yeah.
and therefore I just won the debate because you
No,
picked me.
no, that's not what I said. So we're gonna close out. No, no, no. Like, I don't know. It's just, that's maybe you should have made that one of your bold predictions. I mean, it's I just don't
Well, I
see it
was going
happening.
to
Like I
until I
said,
talked to you.
yeah. Well, sorry. Should have made it your one of yours. I told you it was your prediction. Do what you want, man. It's
I'm
your
more
world.
confident in my other two.
It's your world to burn. You know what I mean? All right. Well, I mean, unless you want to throw anything else out there, um, the last thing I kind of want to say is, I want to mention this is our third episode. We've been pretty consistent with our weekly episodes. We should have mentioned it at the first, but you can follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. On Facebook, we're the GNC Fantasy Football Show. At Twitter, you can add us GC_FF Show. We would appreciate any of that. You can also find us on YouTube. We're on all of your major platforms, Apple and Google Podcasts. You can find us. Just search for us. Listen, follow, subscribe. We're going to try to go to whenever season starts. We're going to try to go to 2 episodes a week, right? Are we going to try to do that?
I would love to. I'll do everything that I can to make that happen, but it's tough. Guys, we do work, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So that means weekends are booked up.
Yeah,
Wednesdays are the days that we have blocked out.
Yeah, this is I don't really want to call it the mom and pop of fantasy football, but I mean, we do our own research. We don't have anyone checking us. We check ourselves. There's a couple of mistakes I actually wanted to touch on that we had last week. We said the Derek Carr injury, I think we said that he broke his arm. He actually broke his legs. Also last week we failed to mention that Herndon is on a 6-game suspension.
6-game suspension.
Yeah, so I mean, like we made some mistakes, and we'll like I said, we'll get better. But we don't have anyone checking us, and we only check ourselves. We check each other throughout. But we'll try to improve throughout. We appreciate any support again. Other than that, Chandler, do you have anything to add?
Peace.
Peace.